So equations of linear relationships, that word linear, think about the word line. The word line is in it. And so that's what we're talking about. Those lines that are on the graph, when we talk about our slope line, that's what we're talking about. That's a linear relationship. And that's an equation whose graph is a line. One way to graph a linear equation is to make a table of ordered pairs, and then we can plot those pairs on our graph, okay? So the slope of a line, just like we've been talking about, this K, it just means slope. And you'll also see the letter M representing slope. But it's the change in Y over the change in X. Just like we've been doing, like unit rate, constant proportionality, all the same thing. It's rise over run, vertical change over horizontal, all the same thing. So we're going to look at when they give us an equation, and we'll talk about this equation more probably tomorrow. But when they give us an equation and we want to be able to put it on the graph, this is one way to do it. So we can make a table and get some points.
What does that say?
Where, right here?
Yeah.
Vertical over horizontal, or if you just want to do arrows. So it's your Y change over your X change. So what we're going to do, they gave us an equation, and we're going to use just random X values, and I'm just using the smallest numbers I can think of because that's easier math to do for me. So smallest X values, including in negative. So -1, 0, 1, and 2 are the same numbers we're going to use each time, just because it's easy. And so we're going to plug that number in for our X value, okay? So the equation they gave us, I'm going to say 3. And y'all remember, if you have a number and it's right next to a variable, what operation is that?
That looks like a T.
You're multiplying. So when I plug in -1 there, and I go to solve it, it's really saying 3 times -1, which is
-3.
-3
Plus 2.
plus 2
-1.
is -1. And they already solved it for us. How nice.
Oh, that's easy.
So then your ordered pair, so 1 point on your linear equation, on your line that you're going to make, will be -1, -1.
So
okay.
It would be 3 times 0 on the next one.
On the next one, 3 times 0. We're going to plug in 0.
And then it would be 2.
Plus 2. Good. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. So the next point you could put on your graph, 0, 2. And we're going to do the same thing. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. So 1 and 5. And then, because 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5.
Oh, okay.
And then same thing on the last one. Plugging in that 2. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. Okay, so look at the next one. Okay, so this one's totally blank. So we're going to have to do this on our own. So they give us an equation, and it says make a table and graph each linear equation. So the goal is we want to get these points filled out so we can put them on our graph. We can make a line, a linear equation. So we're going to do the same thing, and we're using the small numbers just to make it easier on ourselves. So I'm going to plug in -1 for my X value. And so -1 minus 2 is what I want to solve. What is
okay. It would be 3.
-3? Good, use those integer rules. So the first point I could plot would be -1, -3.
Does it really matter if you put the parentheses?
I do it because that's how you're going to see your ordered pair. You're going to have parentheses. So I would just keep it. Then the next one, plug in 0 for X, so 0 minus 2. -2. So the next point we could plot would be 0, -2. Then the next one, I'm going to plug in 1.
-1. Jace, didn't we do
Good.
this
1 minus 2, -1.
like a little bit? Like with the graphs?
Then on the last one, 2 minus 2 is 0.
Oh. You know,
Okay, and so then now, because they gave us a blank graph, we want to plot these points so I can make a line and make a linear equation. So just remember, when you go to plot those points, your first number is your x value. So that means you're going to go right or left first. If we go to the right, that's our positive numbers, left is our negatives, then your y's. So if we go up, those are positive, down on the y-axis is negative.
oh.
So that first point, I'm going to go -1, so I got to go to the left, and then down 1, 2, 3. So that's where my first point's going to go. Then 0, -2. If it's 0, that means I'm not going anywhere. So I'm going to go down 2. Then 1, +1, -1, +2, and 0. And I'm going to draw a line through those points. Ooh, that was ugly. Ooh, that was worse.
I don't believe I got an error.
Okay, so get those points down. I kind of made a terrible line. So, but if you have your line, we've got our slope line, we put our points. What kind of a slope is this? Is it positive or negative? Positive. And the way to check that, if you guys get stuck and you don't know if it's positive or negative, look at the left side. Ooh, I meant to highlight that. Look at the left side of your line that you drew. If you're looking at the left side and it goes up, then it's going to be positive. Okay? If it was going down, then it'd be negative. But in this case, I'm looking at the very far left of my line and it's going up. So that means it's positive. Okay, let's look at the next one. This one's kind of funky. It's a little bit different. Y equals -x. So all we're doing is plugging in those x values for the x. I just don't want to lose that negative. Okay? So for here, I've got negative, and I'm going to make a parenthesis. So -1. Ah.
-1.
So what happens if we have two negatives, double negatives?
Addition makes it a positive.
Good. Those are going to cancel out. So that's actually going to be +1. So my point would be -1, 1. Same thing on the next one. I'm going to put the negative because that's what it says, and then plug in 0 for x. Can you have a -0? No, yuck.
It's not possible.
So that's just 0, 0. And then the next one, negative. Yeah. It's the aliens. No. Just kidding.
Wait, what is that?
I paused it. Woo.
That'd be -1.
Good. So 1, -1. And then I'm plugging in 2 for x. So -2. So 2, -2. And so we're going to plot those points that we just got from plugging those numbers into the equation, or yeah, plugging your x values into the equation. So the first one, -1, +1. So -1, so -1 on the x value, +1 on the y value. There's my point. 0, 0. The next point was 0, 0, so that means that's the origin, the very middle. I'm not going anywhere on the x, nowhere on the y. Then 1, +1, so 1 over on the x, -1 on the y. Shh, guys. And then +2, -2. And we can draw a line through those points. That is your linear equation, that's your slope. And if we look at the left side of our line, is your line going down or up from there? Okay, if I'm looking at the left side of the line, is it going down to the right or up to the right? Okay.
It's going down.
So what kind of a slope is that?
Negative.
Negative. Okay, on the back, same thing, except for they didn't give us a table to fill in, so we're going to have to kind of make our own, and we want to use that equation. So we're going to do the same thing. For the x values, use the same ones they used on the front, because those are small numbers. They're easy to use. It's not a lot of math. So we'll use -1, 0, 1, and 2. Because those are small numbers, easy to figure out, and we can get a coordinate from there. And you're just going to do the same thing. Plug in your x values into that equation for x. So I'm going to put -1 minus 5, which is -6. So then my first point will be -1, -6. There we go. Same thing on the next one. Plug in 0 for x, so 0 minus 5. -5, so that's going to be your next point. 0, -5. Plug in 1 for x, 1 minus 5. Good, -4. And then the last one, 2 minus 5. And we can do the same thing. So these points that we just got, -1, -6, 0, -5, 1, -4, and 2, -3, we can plot those, and that'll give us our slope, our linear equation. That graph's kind of weird, so you got to make your points like, yeah, they're going to be really close together because it's going by 2s. So just be careful. And then, can you tell what kind of a slope that's going to be? Positive, good. Okay, so same thing on number 4. I'm going to make that table. I'm going to use the same x values, -1, 0, 1, 2, but we've got a different equation. So I'll put that in there, y, and then x and y. So remember, if you've got your number right next to that variable, that x, what operation are we going to be doing? We're multiplying. So when I plug in that x, we're multiplying by that number. Right, so -2 times -1 plus 6. Hold on, 1. -2 times -1 is
3.
-2 times -1 is +2. So what's +2 plus 6? 8. So that's our point. -1, +8. My x and my y. So then plug in 0. So -2 times 0, good. Plus 6. -2 times 0 is 0 plus 6. So that's just 6. So 0, 6. Same thing. -2 times +1 plus 6. Good. So 1 and 4. And the very last one. -2 times +2.
-4. Right?
What's -2 times +2? That's -4. So -4 plus 6.
10. It would be 2.
2.
Wait, right? Yeah.
Good.
Wait, what? It would be 2. Oh,
-4 plus 6 is 2. So 2, 2. Then we want to plot those points on our graph. Once you start plotting those points, can you tell what kind of a slope it is?
Negative.
Negative.